Let's take a look at the offseason transactions by the Indians and see where they stack up with the other teams in the division. What do we know about Cesar-Hernandez? He's a switch-hitting guy, right?
Yeah, he's solid second baseman. He's going to help him. He played 157 games last year at second base, 159 overall. So he's going to give you a little more durability than Kipnis did, and probably not as much power as Kipnis.
And no interest in Kipnis?
No interest in Kipnis, as far as I know. I haven't heard anything about Jason.
What happens with a player like him? Try to sign a minor league contract and show up at somebody's camp?
I would think. I think he's still got some time. There still might be, negotiating, but he's going to have to, maybe a one-year deal, guaranteed deal, or kind of come into camp on a, make good deal.
Okay, Delano DeShields, a utility outfielder, I guess.
Yeah.
Can play them all, right?
Right, he can play them all, but he's mostly a center fielder, real fast, good defensive center fielder. Offensively, he still hasn't put his game together.
Emmanuel, how do you pronounce it, Class A?
Yeah, Class A,
and
hard thrower.
100 miles?
100 miles an hour, young guy, 21, 22, should help them at the back end of the
Sandy Leon should be the backup center. Then you lose Corey-Kluber, Jason-Kipnis, Danny Salazar, Cody Anderson, and Kevin Plawicki. But you got Leon to cover that.
Yeah, and Tyler Olson is also gone. There's a bunch. They lost a bunch of guys in the bullpen.
All right, so let's take a look at the Minnesota Twins, who won 100 games last year, and see what they've added and subtracted. Homer Bailey was really a highly touted pitcher when he came up with the Reds, didn't fulfill that. Rich Hill, the lefty, Tyler-Clippard, former Indian, Josh-Donaldson, former Indian, Alex Avila. How many? Has his father only traded him once? Or
yeah, I think he only traded him once.
Where's his father now? Is he still?
He's a GM in Detroit.
In Detroit, still.
Yeah, still in Detroit. Yeah.
And they said you can have the job if you trade your kid.
Yeah.
All right, they lose cj-cron as well as jonathan-schoop and Kyle-Gibson, the right-handed pitcher, and Martin-Perez. So how do they look? They look like they've gained or lost?
I think
on paper.
Cron and Schoop hit a lot of home runs for him last year, but obviously Donaldson, equates that. He balances that out. Their pitching is still a little suspect. They brought Odo Rizzi back. He accepted the qualifying offer. Pineda they re-signed, but he's got to serve his part of his PED suspension at the start of the year, so he won't be back. So the starting pitching is a little questionable, but that's a great lineup.
It is a great lineup, and I'll tell you what, a loaded lineup also. Chicago, who finally looks like they're making a move. The last 2 years they just let it whatever happened happen, but now they look like they're making a run for it. You got Grandal as the catcher, Mazara right field, the Dallas-Keuchel, and Gio-Gonzalez, and Edwin-Encarnacion joins the Central Division again. Yeah. Subtractions, Nova, Volmer Sanchez, and John Jay. Detroit Tigers in the offseason, they added Cron and Schoop. Austin Romine is the catcher. Former Indian Eric Haase is there. Gordon Beckham and Jordy Mercer are players that they've lost. And I assume that when you take a look at what's left in the division, Detroit and Kansas City, you're not going to find too much. Kansas City loses Ned Yost, who's their manager. Mike Matheny is their new guy. They add their third baseman Franco, and Cuthbert.
Yeah, they just re-signed Alex Gordon today.
So, is that right?
Yeah, Gold Glove left fielder, so that's a good sign. But Detroit and Kansas City, I can't see them doing a whole lot this year. They're still full rebuild.
And they lose Castellanos.
Yeah, Detroit traded Castellanos. So
to the Reds.
Well, Castellanos went to the Cubs last season.
Oh, right,
and then
right,
signed with the Reds.
There you go. All right. So, what do they look like to you, the White Sox?
I think the White Sox. The only thing I think the White Sox are, they've spent over $200 million this winter on free agents and re-signing guys like Abreu and giving a kid Luis Robert. Their second baseman, a kid that hasn't even played in the big leagues yet. They've signed for 6 years at $50 million, just like they did with Eloy Jimenez, who's come up and played the heck out of him.
They better be right.
Yeah, they were right on Jimenez, and Robert is supposed to be a great center fielder, and he'll probably be in the opening day lineup to go with Moncada and Tim Anderson and Abreu.
Anderson was the league leading hitter.
Yeah, and Abreu led the league in RBIs. Moncada, had a huge year, over 300. After leading all of baseball in strikeouts the year before, so that is a solid team if they can pitch. And who's the lefty? we just showed it. They got Giolito, who had a big year.
Dallas-Keuchel.
And Keuchel and Gio-Gonzalez.
Right.
If those two lefties can help, they should be. They're going to be a good team. I just don't know if you can. And Edwin-Encarnacion, obviously, but I don't know if you throw all those guys together.
It's the same guy.
Yeah, it usually takes time to gel. So that might be the only thing holding them back.
You don't ever have to play them to move the runners over.
No, you're gonna Abreu and Edwin, they're just going to swing.